We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
And you're back on Liberty Nation Radio. I remain your host, Mark Angelides, and we're continuing our conversation with Liberty Nation's economics editor, Andrew Moran. Now, Andrew, we talked about the Canadian election in the earlier part of the show, but now I'd like to move on to what's happening stateside and what's coming up this week, or may have already happened this week, depending on when you're listening or watching this show, is student borrowers in the United States now have to pay back the money that they owe. Tell me why this is contentious.
Well, because a lot of people feel that they're entitled to these college diplomas, that they worked really hard on it, and that they can't afford it. And you see so many economists and policymakers saying, yeah, they're right, because if you forgive their student loan, then maybe they can afford to buy a house. But they completely ignore the personal responsibility side of this discussion. So it's just you see so many graduates and borrowers who are saying, I don't want to pay back. They owe me. And then what about the PPP loan program from the coronavirus pandemic? You forgave that. Why can't you forgive my $1.7 trillion student loan debt? It's just absolutely absurd conversation.
Well, I think for much of America, the idea that you don't pay back what you borrowed, it's attractive because, that'd be kind of neat, wouldn't it, right? Borrow as much as you like and then don't pay it back. But B, and probably more importantly, that it's a good lesson. It's a lesson that they haven't learned in their $300,000 education, that you are responsible for your actions. This could be a very expensive lesson for them. But what happened here? Let's do the timeline. So Joe Biden, when he was occupant of the White House there, he put a suspension on repaying student loans and I'm going to use the air quotes for those of you listening on radio, he forgave a number of student loans. So there's $1.7 trillion outstanding in current student debt. Is that?
Yeah. According to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York's quarterly household and debt report.
I mean, I have no reason to disbelieve that mouthful that you just said that I've already forgotten. But I have no reason to disbelieve them. So there's this money, and this is owed to whom?
The taxpayer.
Who is this owed? Right, this is taxpayer money. So if that all comes in, obviously it won't get spent on paying down the debt because, of course, government. But it could limit some expansion on it. So there's two questions here, really. I guess one is there? And I don't think there is, but I'm not an economist. But is there an economic case is there a valid economic case for having the taxpayers pay off the loans of those that have taken them out? And a follow-up to that, Andrew, is if that were the case, if there were a valid economic reason, then isn't there also a valid economic reason for free education at all levels?
Well, if there's an economic case for it, I have not seen it. The economic case I see from the ones who have student loan debt is that a rising tide lifts all boats. That therefore, if you forgive my student loan debt, and I'm such a smart person, therefore I can contribute to society and make everything better. But that's not a valid economic case. All it is a case that you're a freeloader and you don't want to, handle your financial obligations. So that's a lot of money. I mean, I think it's also an indictment of the system itself, because you're handing out $100,000 loans to people whose brains are not forming until they're 25.
Sure.
That's not a responsible form of government. I mean, even Joe Biden, when he was vice president in 2012, he admitted that, the student loan program is facilitating this damage that's occurring to a lot of the people. And he's absolutely correct. I mean, I've written about this for years, how this is just exacerbating fiscal deterioration among young people today. And it only worsens the situation, because all you're doing is you're incentivizing people to do the exact same thing. So if you give $100,000 to somebody to study, lesbian dance theory, or any of these social programs, that's not really adding to anything in society, but you're still incentivizing to do it because they can easily access this money. However, if you were to tie, let's say, okay, we'll give you interest-free student loan payments if you study this area in need. And one area needed, of course, is medicine, doctors, technology, whatever the case. But if you're just handing out, candy bars to someone to study, Beyonce Knowles or The Simpsons in college, that's not contributing anything to society whatsoever. And for these people who say they're such geniuses too, that if you're such a genius, then come up with a plan to repay the money that you borrowed in the first place.
Yeah, that would be a neat trick, wouldn't it? But I think you're right. There are certain courses that are going to add value to society as a whole, and it comes down to I think many of these people know that these courses aren't going to add value to society in general, but there is a value to them having that piece of paper, that credential piece of paper, right? And of course, there's the other value that they get to spend 4 years not growing up. They get to spend 4 years living the high life on the taxpayer dime that they can maybe pay back later or maybe not, depending on who gets into the White House next. But they do walk away with a piece of paper that says this person has completed a degree level course and is therefore credentialed enough for, I don't know, Starbucks assistant manager.
That's funny. Yeah, I did a Swaponomics show a couple of years ago, and I interviewed the head of Red Balloon. It's a anti-woke work search board, and I think Andrew Krapuschetz, and he was telling me with the small business owner that he speaks to, they speak to about tens of thousands a month for their monthly Freedom Economy Index, and they found that companies are now actively avoiding college graduates. They want to take someone who hasn't been to college and they want to take them off the street and they want to train them because they want to avoid the headache that comes with all these college graduates who, a lot of them, let's be honest, they get that socialist indoctrination. They want to, they complain. They don't have much work ethic. I mean, you see it all over social media, people who have these time deficiencies where they don't know how to get to work on time. They lose their job. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, we all complain about millennials and Generation Z and all that stuff, but it just, I mean, maybe I'm an old man, but the average worker of young people is just, I don't know how the economy is going to survive in the future with this work ethic we have.
Yeah, there's a work ethic issue, and I know precisely what you're referring to when you talk about these videos online. And it's the most recent one I saw was a young girl, early 20s, saying, I can't work here anymore. My manager won't work me and doesn't understand that I have a time-keeping disability.
Yes, that's the word. Yeah.
And I thought, I don't blame her manager. I'm fully on the manager's side here. If you can't get yourself into work when you're supposed to be at work, yeah, it's a big responsibility issue, which I guess is what this whole thing comes down to. Now, when this kicks in, and it may have already kicked in by the time you're watching this, ladies and gentlemen at home, do we expect to see a meltdown within media and specifically on social media of people telling their sob stories?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's already happening, but they can't avoid it. That's something you cannot do. The chances of going to declare bankruptcy with your student loan is 0 to none. I mean, this new plan from the Department of Education and Linda McMahon, their plan is to garnish your wages, take away your Social Security benefits if you're not keeping up with payments. So this has become a really a story of delinquency as well, because the whole reason of why they're targeting the 5 million borrowers is because most of them have not made payments in the last I think my numbers are accurate, between 90 and 170 days of not making any payments at all. And you've been, I mean, just the lack of financial management too, because they haven't paid any interest over the last few years due to the pandemic. And just your earlier point, it started under Trump. He started the suspension. The suspension started under him, and then it was extended under Biden, and then worsened, of course, by the former president. But so yes, you already having this one. I saw this one clip of this lady, and she was saying, "Don't these people know that we're still in a pandemic? COVID didn't just vanish overnight. So of course we should have student loan payments frozen for a longer period."
There's no escaping responsibility. Andrew Moran, thanks ever so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And that about wraps us up for today's special edition of Liberty Nation Radio. I've been your host, Mark Angelides. I'd like to thank our guests for taking the time to join us. And of course, thank you, the listeners at home, for tuning in each and every week. You are appreciated. Please do remember, Liberty Nation does not endorse candidates, campaigns, or legislation. And this presentation is no endorsement.
We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.